Okay. Cheers, man.
Cheers, brother.
Thank you for coming, Edwin.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That was the most intense Wim breathing exercise I think I've done so far.
Really? Yeah. That's something I've never, I've done breathing stuff before, but never like an actual exercise like this. Obviously with yoga, like when you do yoga, finish with some breathing, but that was pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, something different. It definitely clears out the air, brings in good energy.
Yeah, and then like the feeling of euphoria, right, when you're done. Like
yeah. And it's funny, I don't know there was a very proper technique of breathing until one of the physical therapy students showed me of how to breathe, and it's weird. It's like you kind of do like a belly dance, right?
Yeah.
And it helps you. I wish I learned more about it when I was younger, because I think it would have been like a game changer.
Yeah, I mean there's so much that goes into breathing that we don't realize until we like really study like how to breathe, breathing techniques, and then if you think about the most elite athletes, they probably have good breathing techniques.
They have to.
Yeah, that's something they do.
When you work with your patients, do you do certain breathing techniques to focus on certain spots?
So, yeah, but a lot of them, whenever they're getting into exercise or back to activity, a lot of them want to hold their breath, for example, in the squat, right? Like they breathe in and then they don't ever breathe out, and then they just keep going, and then they're like, why am I feeling dizzy, or why am I feeling off? But, to one, it comes easy because, you're an athlete, right? Yeah. So you know how to breathe. But to someone that sometimes isn't as active as one would be, you really have to teach them, this is when you breathe out, this is when you breathe out. Deep breath in, deep breathe out, stabilize, right? Especially like a squat or deadlift, where you're teaching them to like breathe, hold your breath because it's going to stabilize you. Right, and then you breathe out whenever you're not under constant pressure.
Yeah, because with shortage of breath, that's when the lactic acid builds up, right?
Yeah, and then obviously at that point, that's where also people pass out.
Yeah, right? That's true. It happens.
Yeah, happens a lot more than you would like.
So before we dive deep into this podcast, tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into the field of physical therapy?
Yeah, so. With physical therapy, I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something that I was like. I never really knew what physical therapy was. I injured myself in high school, and I'm from a small town in West Texas where, we're on a border town. You break your leg, you go get casted across the border because it's cheaper, and then you come back, and then 6 weeks later they take off the cast. So I didn't know what physical therapy was. And then, I went to the University of Texas El Paso when I graduated, and my major was engineering, right? So I was a civil engineer, right? Being from El Paso, engineering. Yeah. So I was a math nerd, and then I got a calculus 3, and I was like, nah, math isn't for me. Like once I got to those higher levels, and I really love sports. I knew I wasn't going to go pro, and I said, I really like basketball. So I was like, what could I do to stay around the sport or keeping people active or whatever? And then I kind of changed to kinesiology to be a coach. So, and then I remember driving down Mesa Street from UTEP to go to Planet Fitness and work out. And my friend's like, why don't you do physical therapy? And I remember saying, what's physical therapy? I don't know what that is. And he goes like, yeah, people get injured, you get them better. And I was like, what? Like there's a thing, and sure enough, my major was already kinesiology, and there was just an emphasis for physical therapy. You just do a little bit more classes, not a little bit, a lot more classes, but the emphasis was there. So I said, might as well do the courses, and then if I get into PT school, I get into PT school. And then I did an internship. When I came back, when I transferred to San Antonio, I went to Arleta Lake, and then I interned at a big company here. And I said, yeah, I could see myself doing this, but it was more like panic mode. I don't know if you went through this through undergrad, but you're going to graduate, like, what the hell am I going to do, right? And so I was thinking, crap, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I started just throwing in PT applications everywhere, And so, and then I got accepted to UIW, and I said, I'm not going to work yet. I'm going to go to PT school. So then I went, and it was more like I knew it was to rehab people and get people better, but I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, because it's so broad, right? PT is such a broad spectrum, and I just ended up loving it, man. Like it's my passion. I love what I do, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have fallen into something that I love to do, but obviously I grazed the path as well, right?
Absolutely. I started off actually wanting to become a physical therapist going into college freshman year, but in the same boat, I don't know what PT was, but it sounded pretty cool. And I was like, you know what, sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that comes from a small town? Like that mentality of like not knowing?
No, I think still people don't know what PT is. Like if I tell people that are going to come see me still to this day, and they think I just do exercises with them, right? With PT, and then before, like 20 years ago, PT was like, hey, let me slap on a hot pack on you and some ice and hope you feel better. And there's some exercises. I mean, it's changed a lot in the years. And I think just we ourselves as a profession still have like an identity crisis, right? Because when people ask me, like, what do I do? I was like, there's not one. I say I'm a movement expert, but then people are like, what does that mean? You know? Or so if you were to ask me right now, what's PT, right? I'm still like, well, it depends. What do you want it for, right? PT, people think, oh, it's only when you get injured or have surgery and you need rehab, right? Where I also preach the prehab portion, which is like preventative injury, and then how to get you better, how to move better. So injury screening so that you're not predisposed, right? So I think you're track and field, right? Or
Yes.
cross country?
Trekking. Well, both.
Yeah. So like if you were to come into me, no injury, anything, I could do in essence a body movement scan of you and manual muscle testing, range of motion testing, different special tests that I could do to make sure, hey, you need to work on this so that later on you don't come back because you're injured, right? So, I mean, PT has changed so much, and I think to this day, some people, like, our profession just has an identity crisis of what we do exactly.
Yeah, because there's so many different spectrums that you can go to.
Yeah.
What are you mainly focusing in right now?
So, I'm a performance-based practice. So, man, I'm going to get into it. You ready?
Absolutely.
So,
Let me take a sip.
So I'm in a performance cash-based practice, so I don't take any insurance. So everything I do is I take, obviously cash or card or whatever, but I took insurance out of the loop in what I do, because insurance tends to limit how we can see someone and how we can treat that person. And insurance over time has slowly started reimbursing less for every patient that we see. And so we have to see more people per hour in order for us to get, money through the door and keep the doors open as a big physical therapy company. So I felt like I wasn't given quality care. And because of that, I said, I'm going to go graze my own path. And then I started off in a basement in a building and slowly started building from there.
Nice. So before you started working under somebody?
Yeah. So I graduated 2015 with my doctorate. So when I graduated 2015, I started, a new job as a physical therapist for a big outpatient company here. So they do a lot of the outpatient ortho type stuff because that's what I love. And a year in, I started pursuing a fellowship. So a fellowship is kind of like a specialty. Yeah. And the fellowship took me about 3 years to do, which is like 17 to 20 courses on the weekend. We would drive up to Texas State, come back, and then 450 hours of mentorship under a fellow. So a fellow is like the highest of the high of physical therapy. So earlier, when I said I did 11 years of schooling, is because 5 years for my undergrad, 3 years for PT school, and then 3 years for my fellowship. Right. So constant stress. And then, so when I was there, I took a director position down in Floresville, so south of San Antonio. And so I was running a clinic there. And it's not to knock the company that I was working for. I think it's a great company. It just wasn't for me at the point. And I felt like I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. I was always taught that I should do the most that I can for people. And insurance wasn't helping, and it was inhibiting doing what I wanted to do. So at that point, that's when I took a leap.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, personally, I prefer, we should be our own bosses. We should be our own entrepreneurs because we can work on our own time and we give better quality work.
Exactly.
It comes more from the heart. Exactly.
Right. And then there's also something to say for someone that's hungry, right? Like if you're hungry and you got to put food on the table, like you're going to hustle. Exactly. Right. So yeah, I was definitely scared. I didn't think, if you would have asked me a year ago, because I started a year ago as a part-time thing, that I'd be doing what I was doing, I would have said you're crazy, because I never saw myself really doing it. But I just started drinking the Kool-Aid, and there's a chance of doing this, and it just started happening.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you have to take that leap of faith when you want to open up your own business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But once you do it, you start realizing how beautiful it is to actually have that business, and you want to give it the best quality, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was talking earlier to a photographer about, you know, charging what you're worth, and I had the hardest time charging what I was worth for the longest time. But, you know, I help people get out of pain, and without medication, without injections, without the MRIs, without the X-rays, and that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So whatever I can do, whatever I charge people is a drop in the bucket, really, for what their expenses could be.
Yeah. And that's how you see it. I think once you actually become your own entrepreneur, you start seeing that from a different field, you know? It's how much am I worth? How much is my service? You can see like with barbers, slowly and you know, that's how I saw it too.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time, because you said you did 11 years of school, and I don't know if you had to face student loans, but was there ever a time where you questioned like if this was really worth it with student loans and the time?
Yes and no. I think, I mean, I don't come from a privileged background. I definitely have a lot of student loans. And, you know, I found myself getting my bachelor's and then having so much student loan debt. And I said, there has to be more in order for me to be able to pay that off.
Yeah.
So I guess that's another reason why I pursued PT, you know, because I said, I'll make a little bit more money and then probably pay off my loans that way. Even then, though, as a physical therapist, we don't make a lot of money because of insurance. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur now, I can dictate how much I make. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a time that I definitely thought about the student loans. I thought about giving up. I used to deliver pizza for Papa John's, and there was a fork in the road that said, continue going to school, or do you want to become a manager? Because they offered me a manager position. Yeah. And I was a delivery driver. And I said, you know, should I pursue this? I did the math, and I said, oh, that's not a lot of money. And then I said school. And then, you know, when I graduated high school, it was, I don't know if you want to be more independent, right? Like, yeah. I'm going to pay for my own insurance. I'm going to pay for my own cell phone. You know, like, this is me, right? And then it comes to it, and you're like, man, I'm working to pay those bills, and school's like falling by the wayside. So I remember putting everything in my car, transferring to Arleta Lake University within a 2-week time span, put everything in my car, quit my job, and I left.
Damn,
and I left, and then I called my mom. I was like, hey, Mom, I'm going to cancel my phone bill. I want to jump back on your phone line. I'm going to cancel my insurance that I'm paying on the car. Like, can I transfer back? I just want to focus on school. And when I moved to San Antonio, it was like, just like that. I got to do it. Let's do it. I had already applied to transfer, and my girlfriend at the time was already here anyways, but we had broken up, all that stuff. But, you know, everything was set to come. I just needed to make the jump. And I knew that if I stayed where I was going to probably, not that there's anything wrong with being a manager at a restaurant or anything, but to me, it wasn't my path. You know, so I said, I'm out, you know.
You want more for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what got me here to San Antonio.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And that's funny how you say that, like, you know, once you graduate high school, you want to be more independent. And so, I mean, I'm from El Paso. I got to San Antonio, and as soon as I started paying my bills, sometimes I'm just like, damn, that pride, you know, it's that pride, you know, you want to ask for help, but you don't. But I mean, parents, there's nothing wrong with help.
Yeah, there isn't.
As far as the different patients you see, what are the most common injuries that you see, that you deal with?
So definitely low back pain is probably one of them. I definitely see a lot of low back pain, whether it be chronic or acute. Chronic being they've had it for a long time, acute being fairly recent, right? But right now I'm doing a lot of work with barbell athletes, so Olympic weightlifters, CrossFitters, and I'm starting to see a lot more shoulders and elbow injuries come through the doors. But even going back to the 5 years when I was working at the other practice, I mean, everybody and their mom came in with back pain. So that's probably one of the biggest things there. It's just, back pain is just very common, man. Like, you bend over to pick up a piece of paper and, you know, they're like, oh, I took it. And then there's so much that goes into it, and people become very fearful of doing movements because of their back. And then they end up in the chronic state of mind where if pain lasts longer than 60 days, then you're in an endless loop of pain until you get out of it, right? So That's pretty much what I see.
My older brother, he has lower back pain, and you know, he's been seeing doctors and specialists, so he doesn't know what to do. So for someone who has lower back pain, what are some good maybe exercises, workouts, or other elements that can help benefit minimizing that lower back pain?
So, man, pain is, and this goes for low back pain and goes for any kind of pain really. You know, you go to the doctor's office and they take an x-ray of your back, right? Or an MRI. But it doesn't give you a full picture of that person, right? You don't know what that person is going through emotionally. You don't know how they're doing in all, right? It doesn't give you a picture of how they're moving. So we are stuck in this world where we want a picture to tell us everything, right? So if someone has a herniated disc, right, because that's what you hear all the time, I have a herniated disc, I have a herniated disc. Well, so does the person next to you that's crossfitting and has no back pain, right? So is a herniated disc really what's causing your pain or not? And it typically really is not the cause of your pain. It's something that's going on because of an image that took the picture and says this is what you have. But in reality, are you lacking proper mobility in your lumbar spine? Do your hips recruit the proper way? Can you bend forward efficiently? When you start experiencing this back pain, are you going through some emotional distress, right? So there's a lot of studies out there that people that develop chronic back pain or any kind of pain, and it stays with them for a long time, if you look to a period of time that pain started, they were going through something psychologically or emotionally, whether it be a loss in the family, whether it be some sort of distress, like losing a job. So things like this affect someone's pain experience, right? So it's not just physical, right? And we get hell-bent, me and you alike, if someone were to take an image of us and says, your back hurts because you have arthritis. Well, everybody and their mom has arthritis. Arthritis is like gray hair. We all get it.
Yeah.
Right? Only thing is you can dye your hair. You can't do anything about your arthritis. Only try to move better, get stronger. Right? So...
work around it, right?
Yeah, work around it, right? And but if people aren't educated in that manner, then it's already in your psyche. Then you're already thinking, I can't do anything because of my arthritis. But everybody has it. We all probably have a herniated disc, but is it maybe you sitting on your couch all day because you're in pain? Is that maybe what's contributing to more pain?
So, so there's mental factors to it. And
Yeah, there's all kinds of factors. It's how you eat, how you sleep, how you recover, what was going on during that time. I mean, everything plays a role into your pain experience. Okay, so we're kind of shooting a podcast yesterday. We haven't aired it yet, but we're talking about pain and where it comes from. And you know, you sprain an ankle, right? Or you're walking across the street and you sprain your ankle. Well, your ankle is telling your brain how to react to that sprain, right? So then your brain tells you, damn, I hurt, right? But then let's say you're walking across that street and you sprain your ankle and then there's a bus that's about to run you over. Are you going to feel that ankle sprain or are you going to feel... Exactly.
No.
Right? So you're not going to feel that. So that tells us a lot of like whenever we're in pain for a while, it becomes more psychological, and the fact that we're being told over and over what we shouldn't do and what we can do rather than trying to go the more active approach. And then we get pumped with meds, surgeries, injections, and then we're in this endless loop. And then this is the healthcare cycle that we have, which is why I left it.
Yeah. Right.
So, as far as, strengthening, you definitely want to look. Anybody that has back pain, a lot has to do with the glutes. Definitely the glute med, glute max. Are they doing their job? If they're not, that's a strengthening portion that needs to happen. But you can't lay on your side and just strengthen the glutes. Right, you have to train that functionally, whether it be in the squat, in a single leg RDL position, in a running stance if you're a runner, right? So you have to progress that functionally to that person's standards or what they're trying to get back to. So that obviously everybody says you have a weak core with the back, but it's more than that. It's not just your abs. It comes into play with like your lats, your glutes, how you're moving, right? So if you're hinging at the spine, meaning you're only getting movement at one segment of the spine, when you bend forward and back, well, then we have to probably retrain you how to move better because you're obviously increasing tension at that point. So there's different factors that influence your pain, which is why we have to evaluate as physical therapists. And I tell people all the time, I'm a walk-in MRI. Like, you know, because it's true. Like, you can go to a doctor and pay $3,000 for an MRI, and they're going to tell you the same thing I can tell you. The only thing is I can give you a better path to get better and the more active approach.
Yeah, and it's that active approach. I remember I was dealing with a sports hernia. And again, the same, one of my buddies who was in PT, there was a point where he told me, there's a point in your injury where it's more psychological than it is physical. And he told me, he's like, at this point with you, I think it's more psychological than physical. He told me that. And I was limiting myself very much when it came to my sports hernia, to the point where once he told me that, the next day I started doing more workouts, riding my bike more, and slowly but surely I was working around those muscles, and the muscles were strengthening. Yeah. And now I feel fine.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, whenever you're a collegiate athlete or an elite athlete at any level, I was rehabbing my brother-in-law, and he's in high school. He plays for Riverside. Riverside, and then he was at the FC Dallas Academy. So, nice. You know, things didn't work out because of an injury, and I rehabbed him here, and I did a lot of things, but it got to a point where it was very mental, right? Like, you know, every time I kick, every time I run. And this guy, to be at the FC Dallas Academy, like, it's elite level, right? That's
next level.
That's next level. But these athletes, you know, they are more psychologically ingrained whenever they have an injury. So the mental aspect of any injury, coming back from it, whether it be chronic or acute, is such a big factor.
Oh, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah, there's a good book I recommend if you like this kind of stuff. It's called Explain Pain. Explain Pain? Yeah, Explain Pain. It's all about the most current research on pain, where it comes from, how it's developed. And I think there's 2 different volumes. The most recent one is volume 2, and that's more up to date. But if you're into this kind of stuff, it goes into it. I've had patients read it whenever they come in, and I've had patients, before I see them, they type a long ass email about all their issues, and I already know there's some mental aspect to what they're going through. So I already have a picture of like what I'm going to deal with when they come in through that door. And then that's a book that I recommend right off the bat. So
let's say, for instance, we use a personal example. That one of the relatives or a close friend of them dies. So that can increase pain within even injury.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of, so it comes down to the nervous system, right? Yeah. So your nervous system is connected to the brain. And so even if it's subconscious, what you're feeling or what you're doing, the subconscious, even if you think I'm not in pain, but subconsciously you really think you are, you're going to experience that pain, right? And so the nervous system becomes more sensitive. So think about like 2 different car alarms, right? Yeah. Same car, right? Same model, right? But have you ever seen those cars where you drive by them with a loud exhaust and then alarm goes off, right? And then there's a car that you can go hit it with a hammer, nothing, right? So you can kind of tell that about a person that's had a difficult pain experience, very sensitive. You can barely touch their back. Like, don't touch my back.
No.
You know? Or someone that can go and lift 300 pounds overhead, no problem, and you can hit a hammer against their back and they're fine. You know? So it's the nervous system that tells us how to act, and we have to slowly dose it to where it gets acclimated to proper movement, to where you're not experiencing that pain anymore. Because really, after a year, 300 days, most things in your body are healed. Right. Most things in your body should be healed. And if you're still experiencing pain, it's because you have a sensitized nervous system.
So I'm pretty sure you've worked with elite athletes, and you've worked with just people that are looking to become fitter and stuff. What are the main differences you see between them 2?
Well, I guess it's that thing where, so people that haven't been active and want to be active, and I guess I have a patient that comes to mind. She is a little bit overweight. She came for low back pain, and obviously I rehabbed her for her back, but then I also gave her a structured approach to like, hey, let's get more active. Let's start squatting, let's start deadlifting. The biggest thing I saw with her is she had been to the doctor for her foot pain, another doctor for her back pain, another doctor for this, another doctor for that. all these different people, right? So many hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're being told so many different things. You're being called so many different ways. And you don't know what to believe. Right? So, but then these people or these healthcare providers, they only see that person for 5 minutes out of their day. Right?
Yeah.
So, they don't get to see the person as a whole. And so with someone trying to get out of pain and into an active lifestyle, typically they've been everywhere, right? And trying to get them active and trying to give them a more dosed approach, whether it be, hey, you're out of pain, let's start walking every day, and then kind of progress from there to where they want to meet their weight loss goals. I mean, like, it makes their day when they say they can't even get off the ground, and then one day they're like, I was able to get off the ground. It seems so simple for you and I, but it's like they haven't been able to do that in years, and all of a sudden they can, right? Whereas like an elite athlete, like take Sean, for example, right?
Ninja Man. Shout out to Ninja Man.
Size to size. With him, it's sometimes kind of reeling him back, right? Where he is pushing his body to the brink of death, right? Like that's just like, literally, right? Like he's just pushing himself every time. He's going out there and doing the most every time. And, it's him is dosing less while the other lady is slowly dosing more, right? So teaching someone like Sean, like sometimes less is more. You need to put more time into your recovery, more practice into your movement patterns. Because someone like Sean, and I'm just using Sean as an example, not in a bad way. It's just that there's always something nagging him, right? Something always bothering him, but because he's very active, right?
And he pushes himself.
So, him training for an Ironman last year versus this year, completely different man. So now he plans more his recovery. He comes in once a week to see me. What else can we work on? And he does his exercise. He puts more of an effort in on the little stuff now than he did it before. But with an elite athlete, I've had that issue where they think they know it all. And they think like they're stubborn. It's like, I got this. Or they're looking for the next magical pill, right? And the process of rehabbing or the process of getting to that next step, even if they're already elite, but they're there for a shoulder injury, or something random, they just want to continue to push it because they feel good for that moment, and then they jump right into it. Just kind of like pulling them back. Not yet, brother. Not yet. And that happens a lot with my Olympic barbell athletes and my CrossFit athletes. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I saw that you also do dry needling.
Mm-hmm.
Is dry needling the same thing as acupuncture?
So we use the same needles as acupuncturists, but acupuncture is more like Eastern medicine. Dry needling is more Western medicine. The concept behind dry needling, there's different ways that you can think about it, but what we're doing is we're trying to create micro trauma in the muscle belly. So if you have an injury, let's say you have a pulled hamstring, right? You strained your hamstring. I go needle the hamstring, and what I do is I create micro trauma because I want more blood flow in the area.
Yeah. Right.
So by doing that, the muscle twitches, sends a response, and it kind of accelerates the healing process. Okay. Where sometimes, we have an injury and then we stay kind of stagnant with the healing process, and then it lags and lags and lags, and then we're there a little bit longer. Then there's different approaches where, let's say someone comes in and they're very quad dominant. So they use their quads more than their hamstrings or their glutes. What I can do is I can needle them, put some yeast in where the muscle's just kind of constantly twitching and they're like hanging out. And what I'm trying to do is fatigue out the quad. And then we go and do some squats or some deadlifts, and then their hamstrings are kicking in better because their quads aren't kicking in as much because they're fatigued.
Yeah.
Or I could go needle the glutes because they're not going in, but it's like a quick needle. Have it in there for a minute or two, take it out, and now the muscle is kind of turned on, and it's like, okay, this is how it activates, this is what I do. For example, a runner, if you're having a lot of trouble with glute activation when you're running, knee pain coming in, your knee dives in a lot, that means the glutes aren't activating. If I wanted just to get better glute activation, boom, go needle your glutes. So it depends on the approach, what we're trying to do, but it can be used in different ways.
Yeah, that's one thing that I dealt with my last season at track. Is I was overusing my quads and my glutes. They weren't fired up, they weren't shot. So I went and I saw Airrosti.
Oh man.
But no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Everything, what I spent at Airrosti was what I could have just been doing in the trainers.
Yeah. So and I don't want to knock them, but I will.
Hey, they're competition, bro.
They're competition, right? I get a lot of people that go to people like them. And at the end of the day, man, they take insurance, right?
Yeah.
And but in order for them to take insurance, they're going to spend 10 minutes with you, pass you off to their tech or their intern, and then they have to see the next person. And then what do? They give you a sheet of paper, they ask you to foam roll, they give you the same exercise that they gave the person right before you, right, with the same issue. And it's not a very individualized approach, right? So that's what I was doing, and that was frustrating to me, and I wanted something better for other people, and I wanted to help people better themselves by getting healthier faster, and which is why I took that leap.
Yeah.
So everything I do is 1 hour individualized. I program for people. I tell them this is your baseline of exercises. This is what you do. We'll follow up next week, and then we go from there.
Now I know where to send all the track athletes when they're hurt.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, that's what it is, man.
Have you tried doing cupping therapy?
I've never done cupping. I've had it done to myself. I want to add it to my repertoire, right? But all this stuff becomes very passive approach, right? So if we start doing a lot of needling, we start doing a lot of cupping, scraping, not to take anything away from that, but then I start becoming a massage therapist.
Yeah.
Right. And that feels good while the person is there and doing it. But there has to be an essence of a movement approach and a more active approach, right? How to teach people how to squat correctly, how to run correctly, how to balance on one foot correctly. Things like that make you go a long way, because at the end of the day, if you're in pain or something hurts you, it's how you do what you do every day. It's how you do what you do every day.
Every day.
If you sit down a certain way, if you walk a certain way, and over time, boom, straw that breaks the camel's back, right? So you could bend over forever the most improper way and not know it, and one day you bend over, pick up that phone that's laying there. Oh man, my back. What's wrong with it? But it was everything that led up to that point.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that accumulated.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I could do that stuff, and I could and spend time doing it, and I know people would feel good with it. But I would also know that if I start doing too much of that, it's also doing a disservice to the patient. And my thing is more longevity, not just like feel good for the moment. So when people come and see me, I mean, I think you saw it today when you walked in. People sweat.
Yeah.
People sweat, and it's not because they're working out hard. It's because they're working on things very specific to their needs.
Yeah, I truly agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to add to that, my bad, I kind of lost train of thought.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna take a sip real quick.
I'm sure this is way more information than you thought you were gonna get today.
No, this is good. This is good. This is very good content. I'm digging this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I want to say, it was stuck in my head,
mm-hmm.
and it had to do something with dry needling and what we were talking about. Okay, so forget it. I don't want to waste too much time because I know I'm gonna lose it. So I apologize.
No, you're good. No worries.
So now when we have ice and we have heat,
mm-hmm.
when should we use heat and when should we use ice?
So I always leave it up to the patient. I always say, if you feel better from ice, use ice. If you feel better from heat, use heat. When it's chronic, it's whatever makes them feel better. The thing about it is people tend to leave it on there too long, right? So, I mean, initially when you have an injury, they would always say ice, decreases inflammation. Yeah, inflammation is our body trying to heal, right? So if you have an inflammation to a sprained ankle, they tighten your shoe, get it moving, and then put some ice on it. And I get it, and it works with inflammation, but it doesn't help you with movement because ice is going to decrease your overall mobility.
Of course.
Right. So there has to be a healthy balance of both, I think, initially and throughout the time period of an injury. But you have to dose it appropriately, 10 to 15 minutes max. You can't be putting heat on your back because you're in pain and sleeping with heat on, right? Because too much of anything is going to cause pain or discomfort.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to end up with more inflammation instead of, if you put heat on someone's back, let's say, for a back injury, and they're just laying down, well, it may feel good while the heat's on, but they're not promoting any movement. So maybe put some heat on their back while they're doing, squats on the total gym, in my case as a physical therapist.
Yeah.
So promoting movement while you're doing heat is the best thing. And then if you want to do heat because you feel stiff and tight, well, heat's going to help loosen you up a little bit and get you moving. Whereas like ice will numb the pain. So if you don't want to get back to moving right away, like let's say you're winding down for the day, you're like, oh man, like I'm in pain. You can put some ice on. It'll numb the pain, make you feel good for a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's still a passive approach. You definitely want to do a more active approach. I definitely do more heat than ice myself. I actually don't have any ice packs.
Yeah.
I know there's a big thing with ice cold compression right now going on. And if that helps the person and the athlete get better, why not, right? It's just a matter of what they think is going to help them, right? It becomes
mental. Yeah, it becomes mental.
Right. So I'm not a big proponent of telling them exactly what to do, but if I feel like they're doing something wrong, example, the other day I had someone, definitely like a herniated disc issue. I was able to diagnose it. He was doing a lot of ice. He was told by Airrosti to do ice.
Of course.
Right. And in reality, I said, you should do heat. And then he came in today. He's like, I should have been doing heat the whole time. Right?
Damn Airrosti.
So, and it's not against that. It depends on the patient's symptoms, but people don't do their due diligence on these patients because they don't have the time.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I have the time. Right, I can diagnose and I can see things and I can see how people move, and that's why I have my own business, because this is how I want to run it, and I want to give the best quality care.
Absolutely. Do you think there's ever a spiritual connection between you and your patients when working with them?
Oh yeah, man, like all the time, like any patient. I feel like if I couldn't connect with patients, I probably wouldn't be as successful as I am right now. Because I just don't get in there and like, let's do some exercise, let's get you moving. I get to know everything about them, right? Because again, if you're in pain, what got you here, right? And if I get to know what really is bothering you from deep down, then we make that connection, then I know you can trust me as well. And if you can trust me, you're going to believe that I can help you, and that's going to help you get over the pain as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those spiritual connections are the ones that matter the most.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think if I couldn't connect with my patients and do what I do, I probably wouldn't be successful. People are meant to run a business, and people are meant to, still work for other people. Not that either one is bad, but I think someone that's quiet and not very outgoing is not going to connect on a deeper level with their patients. Right. And then it would be harder for them to do what I'm doing. Yeah,
you never want to be awkward with your patients.
Yeah, never. I mean, I'm awkward all the time, but in a funny way. Like I make them laugh, make them joke. Right? That's a big part of my session. It's like if we're joking, we're laughing, we're having a good time. If you can come in and see me for an hour and we're doing exercise and we're working on you and you're laughing and you're telling me your problems or whatever, like that makes my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only are you a physical therapist, but you're literally a therapist.
Literally, man. I mean, we go through all that. We talk to people. I had a social worker, I think that's what she is, come in the other day. And right away, I knew there was other issues, just not physical. And she's like, and we were talking, and I was like, have you seen a psychotherapist or someone for that kind of, or psychologist or anything? Yeah. And she was like, yeah, I'm actually seeing one right now. And because right away it's that connection of like, this is what that person's going through, let me send you the right avenue, I'll help you physically, but then I can also make sure that you're being taken care of in other avenues, right? Because there's other things affecting how you feel.
I think we step away from that mental health and that mental awareness. Like just today, one of my coworkers, she told me that you focus a lot on your physical health, but you're focused on your mental health. Have you ever seen a counselor? And that's when my ego came out. Like, I don't need a counselor.
Because there's still a stigma, right, to it, to seeing a counselor or psychologist, and there really shouldn't be. I feel like we should be able to go talk to anybody, and like one of my friends says, I go talk to one every other week, and we just talk about what's going on, and he teaches me how to problem solve. How to communicate better. And I was like, man, you're right. Like, we should be able to be okay with doing that. But, you know, also being Mexicans, right? Man, all that guy, nah.
That machismo.
No necesito nada.
Yeah, nada. A la verga. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I told my dad to go see a psychologist. He'd be like, I'd rather fucking die.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. ¿Pa qué? ¿Pa qué?
Yeah, ya estoy viejo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and I don't know if you've ever had experiences with this, but do you think marijuana would be a good medicine for patients as far as inflammation?
I think
and psychologically?
I think it's not bad. You know, I think that there's a lot of research out there that backs up the use of medical marijuana, right? For someone that has pain, someone that has issues with chronic pain, especially, right? Someone that's had pain for too long, those kind of things. The research is out there and it helps. I do carry a few like legal CBD products, and I don't recommend them to everybody. But if someone needs to get over that hump of pain, it's like, hey, I got this here. Would you like to buy some or try a free sample? I definitely think it helps. I definitely think it should be legalized. I mean, more people die from cigarettes and alcohol, right, than marijuana. I've never really smoked myself. Well, I lie. I did. I had a stint in Amsterdam.
Hey,
right? But
it's legal in Amsterdam,
it's legal
so
in Amsterdam.
That counts.
It's been legal everywhere I've done it. Let's just put it that way. But, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Yeah. I think it can help a person. And if that gets them off the opioids, right? Because the opioids are a big epidemic right now, especially in the United States. Something that's overprescribed, something that gives people that addiction to opioids and they think they need that. And at the end of the day, that ends up kind of killing them because of that addiction.
Yeah, it's some fucked up shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was seeing how I saw it on Vice how the opioid epidemic in the United States is taking a turn for its worse right now.
Yeah, and then especially right now because of COVID, right? People are staying home more. They're not being as active. And what do? You sit around more. You have pain just getting up from the couch. Then that starts developing into chronic pain. And then you're not doing anything about it. And then, I mean, I think there's going to be a huge mental health aspect to these times that we're going through. Mental and like physical, everything. I think it's because of the times we're going through.
Yeah. Speaking of COVID, did that affect your business in any way?
Yes and no, man. So when I was going to quit my job, this whole COVID stuff was just coming out. And I still had 3 more years under my contract to work for this company.
Yeah.
And I felt like I needed to make the leap because Texas just became a direct access state 2 years ago. So direct access means that you can come see me off the street, whereas before you would need a doctor's referral, right, to see me. So now I can see you for about 3 weeks, and then I would still need a referral afterwards, but 3 weeks kind of gives me a good time frame to get a referral to me so that I could see you consistently. And so what I ended up doing is like, I need to make this jump before more people start doing what I want to do, right? Because then it becomes saturated market, then you're competing against everybody. And so it was like January, and I had planned to quit by March.
Yeah.
Right. And I paid my contract off, which was a lot of money. And I said, hey, here's my month notice that we have to give out. And I was doing my job part-time, my current job part-time, and I was supplementing my income. Like I was making, working 15, 20 hours, what I was making full-time at my other job.
Really?
Right. So I was like, okay, like this is doable. This is fine. And as I was getting ready, my time was coming up. I remember calling my boss. I was like, I'm thinking about rescinding my resignation because it's COVID. Like, where do you think we're going to go? And I remember him saying, like, Edwin, a lot of people aren't going to make it out of this. Some businesses are going to fail and some businesses aren't going to make it. I took that as a threat.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Just stay with my resignation. I'll be fine. And sure enough, man, like my business like slowed down for like a month. Like April was a worse month. But then May picked right back up. Why? Because everything's one-on-one, right? There's not a lot of churn, right? I don't have a revolving door of people just coming in.
No high volume.
So people feel safer. even though I'm in a basement, even though I'm somewhere you can't really be found, it's all word of mouth. Like, people were coming and then slowly come in and slowly come in. And then now, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Busy. And, it's the best quote or the best thing I've heard, because I have a business coach, and he said, they always ask me, how did I get here? And he said, I just show up every day.
That's the most important thing, is showing
up, right? Like that hit home, right? Like, just show up. Like, whatever the hell you want to do, just show up. You don't even have to be 100%. Just show up and do what you need to do. And sometimes you're going to have bad days. You're going to have the best days, but just show up. And you take that into life, and it takes you everywhere, man.
Yeah, show up and do your best.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that, show up and do your best.
Just show up, yeah.
Just all the time, we're not going to feel 100%.
Yeah.
But it could be a slow start, but then once you start building that momentum, and to me, momentum is so important.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you start building that momentum, you start feeding that energy, and then
you have that trajectory, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that plenty of times with, just even track workouts. Mm-hmm. You wake up in the morning, you're like, I don't want to do this, but then you already showed up, and then you start doing the warm up, then you're like, I'm already 30 minutes deep.
Might as well finish, yeah.
I'm not gonna go to sleep anymore. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I get that money in.
Yeah. So that's something that kind of kept me going, and show up every day, and then slowly it's just built it to what I wanted, and we're growing, and I'm really happy where we're at right now.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan on? So what do you see in the future with your business? So
actually today we're looking at a bigger building. To kind of move into a bigger warehouse building, 3,000 square feet, high ceilings, kind of picture like a CrossFit gym, with some treatment rooms in there. And we found that today in Southtown still, so two blocks down the road from where we are.
Oh, perfect.
I think that the market isn't there yet, for physical therapy. There's an Airrosti down the road, but
fuck Airrosti.
But I think that I can hit the market really well. Young professionals, people that are active. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I have people that drive all over San Antonio just to come see me, which is kind of cool, which I never would have thought that was going to happen, But, the goal for my business is to be able to move into a bigger building, have 2 or 3 other therapists working with me. And, I read a book recently. It's called Small Giants. And it's about businesses that stay small on purpose so they can have a better impact, right? On the community, on people, economically, right? And, people always have this vision of growing this big, huge company and having different branches and having all this crap. And to me, maybe one location with good quality work is all I need.
Yeah.
I don't need to make millions. It'd be nice, right? But I need a decent lifestyle, and I want to help people. So whatever I can do to get there, I don't need to have all these different clinics or anything.
Absolutely, because then with more businesses, it kind of stems away from the values.
Mm-hmm.
There's some places
you have to monitor more, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't know what the person down there in another small town out is doing, and you're in the same area, but you don't go and check on them, right? So that kind of thing. That happens, right? People get complacent, and I love what I do, and I don't really think. Yeah, I do want to become more of an operator, but I still want to treat every day. Yeah. See people.
It's like with Peter Pepper Pizza. Mm-hmm. It is amazing in El Paso, but it just ain't the same in San Antonio, I'd rather get Papa John's.
Papa John's? Ooh.
Papa John's is good.
Papa John's is good. I'm biased towards Papa John's because I worked with them, but every time I get delivery, it's definitely Papa John's.
Definitely. Yeah. Papa John's is delicious.
It is.
But yeah, I like that. And speaking about locals, I think that's the way to go sometimes with whatever city you're living in. If you want to live a healthier life, go local.
Yeah.
It might be more expensive, but the quality is better and the quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Supporting small businesses right now is a big thing, right? Yeah. So I think that's what's helped me too is people are like, yeah, I just want to support you because you're also a small business. I was like, you're getting really good care, by the way. But, and that's what me and my wife do now too is we go and we rather spend money in local businesses that we want to see them thrive rather than spending money at, McDonald's. We don't go to McDonald's, but like if you were to go to McDonald's to get a burger, we'll just go to the local grill, and get a burger, So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree too, except for Whataburger. I love Whataburger.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of changed though since they sold out.
They sold out?
Yeah, they sold out last year or a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah, so their quality of products is not as good as it was. You haven't noticed the difference in taste?
Nikita, have you?
I haven't.
No.
I haven't.
No.
Maybe a little bit with the... No.
It's falling out. Now you're going to notice it. Now you're going to go to Whataburger. Next time you go, you're going to be like, Edwin was right.
I go at least once a week, man. There's a Whataburger down the street. I always go.
Yeah, I love Whataburger.
Yeah. One thing about training with Ninja Man Sean, and he told me, he's like, if you work out this hard, there's times where you can just have those cheat meals and indulge, and he's right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's got to be recovery too.
Yeah. Speaking of recovery, since you're an athlete, do you have a Whoop?
A Whoop?
Yeah. Do you know what this is?
A Whoop? No.
You don't know what that is? What do you do? How do you track your recovery?
How do I track my recovery?
How you feel?
Yeah, I also journal too. I haven't been journaling as much as I used to lately.
Yeah.
But I journal before, I go to sleep, I journal. And on one column, I'll do the workout that I did. Mm-hmm. Especially during and track too, I was very detailed with it. On one side, I did all the workouts I did. Mm-hmm. What time I woke up, what I ate, and at the bottom, just how I felt.
Very meticulous, yeah? Yeah. So the Whoop is really cool. It's been out for like a year and a half now. But you know how people want to track how they're doing with their heart rate?
Yeah.
Right? So if you have like a lower heart rate, it's supposed to be like you're in better shape. But there's HRV, so it's heart rate variability. So to keep math simple, it's the time between every beat.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have, let's say, 60 beats per minute, then you're assuming it's 1 beat a second.
Yeah.
Right? But then in reality, one beat could be at 1.2, the other one could be at 0.8, the other one at 1.3, the other one at 0.7, right? So this measures your heart rate variability. The greater the variability between heartbeats, the more recovered you are. And and then the less the heart rate variability, the more predisposed you are to injuring yourself. So they've done a lot of studies on it, and when you gauge your body based on the Whoop and HRV, you get a lot of elite athletes out there.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and knowing about this now, all it will do is just put it into my box and make sure I implement it, and because that's one thing you never really pay attention to is your heartbeat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And again, training with Ninja Man, he talked about it too. He's like, the first 30 minutes of that cardio, your heartbeat is up, but then it's gonna lower once we do this workout, but then it's gonna shoot up again. Mm-hmm. And he talked a lot about heartbeats, and even in track, you don't really hear it that much. We don't really hear that concept of heartbeat. We talk about it, but not as much.
Yeah. Yeah, the heartbeat's a lot, right? Because the lower your heartbeat, the less your heart has to work. So the less your heart's working to pump in that blood. So you got to think about it like that. So if you have 50 heartbeats per minute, one heartbeat's pumping more blood than someone that has 80 beats a minute. And they have to be pumping harder to get that blood circulating. So
the more beats a minute, the worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your heart has to work that much harder because it's not strong enough and that's not conditioned enough.
So for elite athletes, what is their at rest? What is their heartbeat per minute?
I've heard a lot of different things, but around 50 or less. I think Sean keeps it around a 45, and then my wife sits at a 40, like a 46 as well. I sit at a 52.
Yeah.
So it just depends, but if you're within that 50 to 60 range, you're supposed to be pretty good.
Women are healthier than men, correct?
Depends on which women and which men you're talking about.
That's true.
They're definitely more proactive, right? I had a patient today ask me, do I see a lot of men? Because she assumes that they get injured more. Yeah. But I was like, not really. I see more women because they're more proactive on their health. Yeah. So they're like, I feel something weird, I'm going to go see someone. And then they come in. Whereas men, we'll wait till we're dying and crawling before we go see someone, Yeah.
Till we chop our fingertips off,
Yeah, exactly.
I really did chop off my fingertips.
Really?
Yeah.
What? How did that happen?
Lawnmower accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can check it out. YouTube World Star.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
No. You got to send me that link.
I swear. I'll send you the link for sure. Well, You answered all my questions. I had a great conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, last thing I wanted to say, and it got my mind again. I didn't know there's literally postures for everything. Correct postures for even just sitting down, standing, walking, being on the ball of your feet. So that really helped align me with my back and my shoulders and everything. So that's what I was gonna tell you. I don't know what the question would be, but yeah.
That's what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
So going off of posture real quick, there's a misconception that there's a perfect posture, and then there's a misconception that there's very bad posture.
Yeah.
So there has to be something in the middle. Whoa, sorry. So there has to be, it's okay to move in and out of different positions.
Yeah.
Your body should be able to acclimate, but you shouldn't be able to just hold one position and think that this is how I'm supposed to be the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're typing or whatever. So it's really a fine line of like finding that balance, because if you want to slouch a little bit, it's fine as long as you can come out of that position and be in a better position. You're okay, right? So if you're in a better position here, but then you slouch, completely fine, you know? So, and it comes down to if you do something too much, then that's when you start hurting, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to be in perfect posture all the time, something would probably start hurting at some point because
you're stiff.
Because you're
right?
stiff, yeah. So it's more movement that you want to focus on when you're focusing on posture. So that's a big education piece that I tell people.
I mean, the most the education piece you showed me today is movement.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to use heat, movement with heat.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest clinical pro right there.
One thing I learned with sprained ankles, I don't know if there was this acronym called MICE.
Rice.
I learned it with MICE.
MICE. Okay. Yeah.
So MICE is motion, and then I is ice, C is compress,
Compression?
and then D is elevation. What is RICE?
Same thing, but rest.
Oh, okay, rest.
But that was like old. Like it's better to be mice. Like mice is probably, I've never heard it as mice, but mice is better than rice because rice was rest, and rest we know is not good. Typically after an injury, you want to recover, but then people end up resting too much. You know, so for example, I had my really bad ankle sprain last May. And I didn't rest it, especially because I had my own business. I was over here, like moving it, like, you know, doing things because I had to be walking on it the next day. So I did that in ice and compress and all that stuff. But yeah, I think resting, because we tend to rest too much.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of us, man. Well, I had a great time with you. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people?
I mean, if you ever have any questions about PT or physical therapy or what I do, you can reach me on my Instagram, _PT, phone number in San Antonio, 210-660-7987, and then Positive Action Physical Therapy, Positive Action Rehab and Performance on Facebook as well. So, you can DM me there if you want to learn more or even nag an injury. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Edwin Serrano. I definitely have to hit you up in the future for that needle therapy.
Yeah,
I'm a little scared about it, but...
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I wish you the best in your work and your future podcast. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.